I know we've got a few people in the side room. I'm Jeff Christensen. I'm just doing an introduction, so you don't have to listen to me. I know we've got some stuff that'll be on the screen, so if you guys want to see what's being presented, feel free to come in here if you want to kind of peek in. Before we start, only one announcement. The next Tech Talk will be September 26th in Forest City. So note of change of venue on that one. It'll be at the Paddler's Tap. And the sponsor is going to be Forest City Economic Development Corp. And the presentation is going to be by Koloff Digital, and it'll be about marketing. And so you'll see more material coming out about exact topic in the future. So yeah, if you can join us for that, that would be great. Tonight, I'm going to make one introduction. We've got Mark Dodd from One Vision, and he's kind of got a group with him that's going to help present and talk about smart living. So Mark, I'll let you take it away.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Before I get started, I want to say thank you to the Papa John Center for the Tech Talks and giving us the opportunity to be the presenters this evening, and to Lake Time Brewery for hosting us this afternoon or this evening. As Jeff said, I'm Mark Dodd. I'm the CEO with One Vision. For those of you who are not familiar, One Vision is a regional provider of services for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, brain injury, autism spectrum disorder, and such. And we primarily serve adults, and the services that we provide are to help individuals live as independently and as included in the community as possible. So with me this evening, I have my Chief Operating Officer, Jen Bauer, my Chief Financial Officer, Mario Van Dyke, and then of course I want to introduce Brian Blodgett, who is the CEO and President of Next Gen Technologies. So they'll get to jump in and talk, but you get to hear me for the next few minutes. And I just told Jan, who's also part of the leadership team, to give me the 2 minutes, 1 minute, so I don't run over because I can. So the thing that I want to kind of make the case for is, why would One Vision be here talking with you about at a Tech Talk, right? We're very much a human services oriented. We are oftentimes, and historically, we've been a hands-on, in-person service delivery provider. And here's why. These are the problems or challenges. The immediate workforce shortage. We all know this, right? Everybody is experiencing this. And so I don't have to go into it a whole lot. I'll put it into perspective for you guys with One Vision. Currently, as of, I was just checking with my HR officer today, approximately 50% of our direct support professionals, these are our frontline sort of employees, 50% of those positions are vacant in our organization. We have about 110 positions open out of about 220, 230, 40 positions in total to be at our preferred staffing level. So what you can understand then is that's just not sustainable. We have to backfill that with temp labor and with overtime from other DSPs, that's the acronym that we use, and then from that frontline supervisor or leader position too. And so, Mario or Jen can give you some of the stats on the overtime, but it's just not as sustainable for us. In addition to that, the long-term projections for the work age population in Iowa is not great, right? And again, you guys probably know this, but just looking at this, the workforce age population growth in Iowa is projected to be 1.4% from 2023 to 2033, which is below the national average of 2.3%, and worse, if we exclude the Des Moines metro area, the workforce age population growth is projected to be 0.9%. 0.9%, right? And then, to add insult to injury for us, the retirement age population in Iowa is projected to grow by 11.4% from 23 to 33, faster than the national average of 8.5%, which means there's going to be a lot of people who are going to need caregivers, right? And that's really the workforce that we're all sort of pursuing, is those folks who have a passion and desire to come and care and support and help people live as independently as they can. So, and then in addition, if you will, just some other stats for our industry. As you know, there are folks with disabilities that are likely on a waiting list. We have a waiting list right now of 36 individuals. And that's really not bad compared to some other organizations across the state. And what that means is the services that we provide are funded by Medicaid, and they're funded through what are called waivers. It's just a classification of dollars. And the folks that we serve are either approved through the intellectual disability waiver or the brain injury waiver, something like that, right? So those are folks that are approved, and I would say across the state, there's dozens of people on the waiting list. Wasn't able to find that data. But in addition to that, there are 2,400 individuals just waiting to get approved for the waiver so they can be referred for services for intellectual disability, and 1,700 for brain injury. And then we know that the prevalence rates are increasing for intellectual developmental disorders, including the autism spectrum disorder. And then I talked about stagnant Medicaid reimbursement rates. I won't go into that. Just suffice it to say that because we're paid through Medicaid and it's a combination of federal dollars and state dollars, both of which are tax dollars, that we go to legislature every year and ask for additional money, but there's no consistent pattern for that. So rates pretty much stay the same for a long time, and then they'll give us a bump and sort of more stair-step than incremental. And lastly, and to those of us who are in this business, because we want to help people live independently and gain as much participation in the community and do things as we can, we have found that 24-hour in-person staffing can actually be a barrier to that growth and that independence. Not intentionally. It's just, if you've got someone at home and you've got someone there who could take care of the dishes, as you wait long enough, the dishes will probably get taken care of for you, right? Those kinds of things. And so we know that that can foster a dependency inadvertently, right? And so we don't want to be part of the problem. So the leadership team, a little over 2 years ago, said, how will we solve these challenges? What will we do to respond to these challenges? Workforce, pay, stagnant pay. We have to figure out how to do what we're doing with fewer people and at a reduced cost. And so we knew technology had to be a part of the answer. We started looking around the country, and fortunately, we came across another company out in Ohio that had been implementing technology in the way that we had envisioned. We saw what we wanted to be able to implement, and we started looking at how we might do that. And lo and behold, they were there, and they were a few years ahead of us. And so we have partnered with them to bring this smart living technology service model to One Vision. And so we're the second organization in the country to be implementing this technology to the extent that we are in that vision that we have. So with that said, I want to hand it over to Brian, who is going to tell you what smart living is.
So, very good. Thank you very much there, Mark. So ultimately, what is smart living? Well, smart living is it's the idea of taking lots of pieces of technology and bringing them together into a system that allows us to help enhance lives. We're doing that with our homes right now. How many of you have an Alexa? I mean, that's a smart living device. And so what the smart living is, it's the idea of understanding the need and filling in that need with technology. And so I want to start by making sure that we understand that smart living is not remote monitoring. This is not filling a house full of cameras and having somebody sitting as a security guard watching people in homes. This is instead making sure that the needs of the supported individuals are met in whatever way that they can be met. Now, right now, the way they're being met is it's somebody's in the home for the most part 24/7, and they are there to help fill and coach when there's issues. Well, that's 24/7, but they don't need to be coached 24/7. They're not having issues 24/7. And so what we're doing is we're making it so that the technology can be used for that. So what is at the heart and the root of this? Well, first of all, the number one piece of technology is a touch screen. And this touch screen is positioned several places around the home that literally pops up, and actually I've got a picture here of what it might look like. And it's a touch screen that has video capabilities. And so if I'm a person in a home, right now, if I'm not in a smart living facility, I have a DSP in the house with me, and I just go to them and say, hey Javen, I'm having trouble with XYZ. I'm having trouble figuring out how to get this chicken cooked right. So you like cooking chicken, right? But now, instead of having to have Javen sitting there in the home 24/7, which I'm guessing some shifts feel like 24/7, literally as a supported individual, I just go to my touchscreen and I call Javen, who's available to take calls from multiple homes. And he says, oh, remember, when you do that, you got to put the lid on. Oh, yeah. And he helps coach me through it. So smart living, at the root is this communication, the ability to communicate. But then there's a lot other things to it as well. Things that sometimes we use in our own household, like smart locks. I mean, how many people have a smart lock in their house? You know, same idea. So there's a lot of other technologies that we bring into play into this. And all of this is done through basically a prescription. And I am going to toss this over to Jen and just take a moment. Can you explain how you guys are figuring out what technology? Because we have a catalog, and when I say we, LAD and this whole process, there's a catalog of over 200 devices that can be used. We don't install 200 devices in every home. You put what needs to be in the homes where it needs to be. So how do you guys figure that out?
So at the beginning of all of our services that we provide, we're always assessing what are people's needs. What are they struggling with? What is getting in the way of them being able to be independent? It's always an assessment. This is no different. There's an assessment that was developed by LAD when they went through this pilot. They had occupational therapists from Xavier University partner with them to build out this assessment, and that assessment really walks through like a bajillion questions. I think it takes anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, looking back at Javen, to go through it, roughly that. And then with how those questions are answered, on the back end, there's a database that has all of the different types of technology that have been vetted so far. What kinds of needs do those technologies meet? And then at the end of that assessment, it generates, these are the technologies that we would suggest the team looks at putting in place to meet these different needs. And so it becomes very specific, it becomes very personalized to what each person in that setting actually needs versus doing the same thing across the board for everybody. It's not a one size fits all, it's very, very specific.
Yep. And so I'll take a few minutes to kind of walk through some of the technologies that are being implemented. Of course, I showed you that we have this communication screen. It's called GrandCare, is the company that makes that screen. That's all over the place in many of the settings, because again, that's at the core of the communication. But some places have an Amazon Alexa there, where they're just using it for all kinds of different things. Smart refrigerators, for example, if one of the supported individuals that you're doing some coaching with them on how to buy groceries and figure those things out. Well, if you're in the home 24/7, you just go to the fridge, you look and see that the cottage cheese no longer has the structural integrity of cottage cheese, and it's time to get rid of. But now the fridge, you can actually peer into the fridge because the fridge actually has the built-in on the smart fridges. And so now you can see what's in there, and you can see that, yes, the milk is now cottage cheese. But it's all those things that then gives opportunities to coach and teach and ultimately provide for better independent living. Other things that is being used, smart locks, so that we know that the door actually was locked at night. Not to lock them in. It's not locking people in. This is simply making sure that the door is locked. How many times do you sit there and go, did I lock the front door or not? And so that's what this is about. Temperatures, thermostats, smart thermostats. Motion sensors is a very key component. For example, let's say one of the supportive individuals has a problem with having nightmares and getting up at 3 in the morning. Well, this would alert Javen, who's taking the night shift again, so that hey, so-and-so is up at 3 in the morning. And what he might do is go into the screen and make a quick phone call. Hey, I see that you're up. Is everything okay? Oh yeah, and coach and work through it. And so it's this ability to have data and appear and be able to see what's going on without seeing what's going on, giving them dignity and those things. Other technologies that we're seeing, one of the things I learned, so I got the privilege of actually going out and seeing LAD with a couple of these folks over here that are at the core of this team. And one of the things I saw and I heard and I didn't know is that falls is a major component that ends up causing problems, not just for supported adults with disabilities, but also in the senior population. And one of the #1 ways to prevent a fall is to make sure there's adequate lighting. I didn't know that. And so literally having outlets that have lights built into them makes all the difference in the world. I mean, it's something that simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. Pill dispensers, so medication dispensers. So I have recently had some blood pressure issues, and I can't even remember taking my blood pressure meds. I can't imagine what I'm going to be like when I'm 80. so the medication dispensers, making sure medication is dispensed properly, using systems and technology as opposed to having to have an individual go to a home and dispense that medication. And it's really neat what the technologies are getting there. Another thing that I learned about this that hadn't even thought about is also technologies to help deal with maybe somebody that has some anxiety. And so maybe certain types of lighting, colored lighting, just basic things. Javen gets a phone call from a supported individual and they're really quite anxious. Now if Javen was there, he might sit down with them and talk to them. But he can also adjust the lights in the room to a color that maybe is more responsive to help calming them down too. Simple things. And one of them I love is a water shutoff. so water sensors and water shutoffs. Maybe you have an individual that gets very forgetful. They start running a bath and they forgot they started running a bath. A water sensor detects that it's overflowing, shuts off the water of the house, alerts Javen, who's now monitoring several houses, or is getting alerted from several houses. This house is, and so he calls the individual and say, hey, by chance were you running a bath? Oh no. Okay, so let's talk about how we clean that up. And rather than Javen going there and doing it for them, he's coaching and teaching, and it's enhancing their lives. And then my favorite of all time is what's going to be coming more and more: wearables. Wearables are really going to change the independence of that. So I have a wearable story that I'm going to tell you, and then I'll stop talking. I have a 14-year-old now, and I have several adult children. She is much younger than the rest of the kids that we have in the house. We're down in Iowa City, and we're walking down the street with a whole bunch of teenagers, and at that time, a 5-year-old. So this 5-year-old's trying to keep up with everybody else. We're walking down the streets of Iowa City, and all of a sudden, all of us peel into a shop, and she just keeps walking. 5-year-old by herself downtown Iowa City. We get in the store, and all of a sudden my wife's phone rings. Mommy, I'm lost. My daughter had a wearable. She had a watch called a Gizmo Pal at the time, and this is now 10 years ago. She knew how. She always wore it. She pushed the button, called it, and immediately we knew right where she was. Something that simple. I mean, what a wearable can do for us, and it allowed my daughter at the time to have freedom that she didn't have, because we would have thrown her out on a leash if not. So it's very helpful. So then the question is what makes all this effective? How do we know this is working? Well, Xavier University in Cincinnati worked with LAD, and they actually have very good data showing not only is this working, it's actually increasing independence. It's giving us individuals that are actually having a better quality of life out of this. Now, one vision, and I'll maybe let you speak to that. I know you're collecting a lot of data on this as you're going.
Well, we'll be using a tool that they developed through that pilot to assess that independence level, so that we can see that the same thing is happening with the people that we support, that independence is actually increasing and growing. Mm-hmm. So we'll be using the same tool.
So, well, so our timelines, I mean, we can share those, but ultimately, I am very happy and pleased that been able to be part of this team. The reality is I can't take credit for all the work that is being done here. There's a team of people in the Smart Living group that are doing and dealing with this day to day. I'm just the IT nerd that just makes sure the internet works. but it's been very good, and it was neat to work with it to see how systems come together. And that's what we spent a lot of time is dealing with the system and making sure that it works. So that's what I have. There you go.
Yeah, so Brian keeps referring to Javen in the back. Javen is one of the
Sammy's
folks
hiding in
that
the corner.
is in the front lines of implementation, and Sammy Schultz as well. She's our senior leader helping with this. What I was hoping with that Jen or Sammy could do though is to talk a little bit about how the people so we have 2 homes that we have rolled this out to. We started our first 2 homes at the end of June. And so what that means is we had all of the technology, or at least the first round of technology installed. We had staff at our remote support center, which is located away from those homes. And we ran parallel in-person staff while we were monitoring and making sure all the technology was working and the people that we support were comfortable and capable of using that technology. And then we have gradually pulled back the amount of in-person time. What we're shooting for, at least with this group, we think that we should be able to withdraw or reduce our in-person time by about 200 hours a month across those 2 homes, which is about 25% of the total in-person time that we had been providing. Which of course, as you know, from a workforce standpoint, helps us because we're not eliminating positions, we're just eliminating the need for in-person care. So we can use those folks in homes where the folks need still in-person care. However, the story really isn't technology. The story is the people that we support and how they're able to grow and gain independence. And so that's what I was hoping Jen or Sammy could comment on. Just what have we seen already in just a matter of 2 months?
Kicking it back to you 2.
Sammy and Javen, you're on the spot. Next time you won't show up.
You got it. You need to stand up.
You're on the clock. There's a few with empty glasses here, you guys. They're gonna want to get to the bar.
Alright, so we're doing, so I'm actually gonna make Javen talk. He doesn't think he's gonna talk, but he will talk. I think as far as what you're saying with decreasing staff, it's happening a lot faster than what we thought. As I think a big stigma with people with disabilities is they don't know how to understand tech, they don't know how to use it. I think we can disagree. Javen, you disagree with me if you feel like it. They actually understand it, maybe even better than we do. We have a home that definitely teaches us more than what we know. They've discovered things we haven't discovered. So it's been quite a journey the last few months on trying to figure out the 2 homes. Well, we're adding about 4 more homes at the end of September. So we'll have to readjust completely from, we set a standard now and a month. We'll have to reset that. But I think right now, you say 25%, we're basically cutting 50%. So with our homes, basically half the days remote. So I know our goal is 20, and that will change when we add more homes to it.
And they love it. Their supported individuals love
Yes,
this situation.
they, depends on the day. Yes. And we've got guardians who were 100% against us on this, on board with us. So right now, I actually, Mark would say we're about 50%.
That's great.
In a month, 25 is a really good goal.
Yeah.
So it'll adjust by then. We've had really good conversations with guardians. Some that were on board from day 1. Others we worked on for a year plus to get them on board with us. So
One of the other successes too with this is we've already got one person that's moving from a house where there's more support into his own apartment. And that was not really something that his team was talking about to do within this year, and he's doing it now in September in his house.
Yeah.
Went remote in June, and now he'll be in his own apartment, and he's been living with other people since he moved out of his house with his parents. So he's very excited about that.
And that's the fantastic thing as well. We can, this is technology that can be put into a single apartment, a 2-person apartment, 4-person home, anything like that. And historically, you know, from a business standpoint, we pretty much needed 4-person homes to cover the labor costs and the additional expenses, right? So we can provide a much better sort of individualized amount of support, as well as the settings can be as varied as folks need. So I know that we've spoken for probably our full time. Open it up to any questions that you guys might have. And of course, Mario, Jen, Sammy, Jabin will be here for a while to answer questions if you are not sure you want to ask them in front of the crowd. Yeah, Deb.
Okay, I have a couple. So first of all, all these internet-enabled devices, a lot of the stuff I've been reading is like, those are sort of the biggest risks for security hacks. And so I'm sure there are things in place to mitigate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So one of the biggest things that we've done is we've built specialized, dedicated, independent, segmented networks to run the Internet of Things, the IoT stuff. And so as we're building out these systems, we're making sure that those homes have this network that talks to those things, independent of all the other things that are happening there. And that alone really helps segment it. The other piece is we're actually, in the way that the accounts and things work with the remote support staff, is those accounts are all segmented as well. And so any one issue isn't a holistic issue.
Good.
Great question. Yeah.
And on top of that, really
Yeah.
quickly, so the dashboards we use are HIPAA protected.
Correct. Yeah.
So
All
they're
encrypted.
already, it's not like Google we're using, they're very specific networks
Dedicated
and
for that.
dashboards that are HIPAA protected. So
Yeah.
to go along with the network side of things, the operation is still touching base on that.
Thanks, Sammy. Alan?
What happens when the lights go out?
Jabin.
Great question. Jabin, what happens when the lights go
You tell me it's that,
out?
probably.
The question isn't when the lights go out, the question is when the lights go out and the power goes out and the generator doesn't get on and your redundancies also go out.
Yeah.
Which we had
all of that
happen
in the
a couple
Yes.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
Twice in
Yeah.
a week,
That's-
so we're
Are you
pros.
talking minutes, hours?
So most of the homes are set up for hours, and then there's generators that are coming into play. So as time goes, if you look at the build out, there'll be generators in places that need it.
Each
Prescribed.
house will have a standby generator.
Correct.
It'll
If
depend
it
on
needs.
the need of the people.
If it's
Because
needed.
some of the homes that we support, they can have several hours a day of alone time because they already have that level of independence. So for them, if that sort of situation goes down for a period of time, we've got more time to respond to that house where people have the ability to be on their own without support for 5 hours, for 8 hours. Versus somebody who has maybe the ability to be without support for about an hour, then that's where we're gonna need that backup generator in place. As well as then we've got staff that are on call that would go out, and that's what we did in that case because this was the first time. We had people that just responded and made sure that people were doing fine until everything was back up and going.
And it's not just generators, you can look at backup batteries.
Battery walls.
And you're looking at, depending on it, Wi-Fi, so it could be your mobile provider, it could be through your satellite provider, it could be your cable provider, so depending on the needs of the clients, you may have several of those types of backups as
And
well.
I think, and that's the key, it's back to that prescribed need. What is the need, and let's fill the need. We don't have to spend $100,000 in every home because some don't have those needs.
So my parents are 84, 85 years old, and they think they're living on their own, things change.
Yep.
So, set up a time, they do the evaluation, go through the questions, and recommendations come, and we build a process.
So,
Kind of a-
yeah, I mean, so ultimately one vision is for adults with disabilities, but senior living and all those things, those systems come into the same idea and same avenue. Yeah, so.
For the people that we support, we go through an annual process at the very least of assessing, have people's needs changed? Is anything going on that they require different kinds of supports now? And of course, if something happens before that annual process, the team pulls together, they look at that again. So it's always been a dynamic service that responds based on what's going on in the person's life. And that continues. This is just another way to provide the service, and if someone no longer can receive the service that way, then we bring people back in until we found another place for them to receive that 24-hour service. So,
And to answer, or just to comment on that, I mean, our mission is disabilities, so just to be, where are you? I'm looking at you. Senior living, it's a thing, we are supporting people, but our focus is first year, even maybe first 2 years, it is disabilities. We need to figure it out before we even expand to any other population. So I think you giving an interest and maybe giving other people, it'll help us understand there's a need out there. And I think that's good, but for senior living, I don't see it happening within the next year or two. Just to be open and honest with you.
But it's coming, I think.
I hope it's coming, yeah.
The grandkids,
It's something, yeah, we've talked about, we've looked at what a quote would be with senior living and things like that with grand care. I just think to the extent that we're doing in the next year or two, it's specifically disabilities. Let us figure it out, let us be the experts at it, and then we expand from there. But we have looked at quotes for senior living with like our townhomes and our apartments and what that would look like. But I would say for sure the first year, it's not expanding to senior living at this point.
It has to come though. I mean, I told you what the steps are, right? It has to come, so it will.
Well, I was thinking along the same lines as you too. But, and so to that, I was wondering, so that screen you showed us, the landing screen, that's sort of the primary, everybody goes.
That's the communication.
That's the
portal.
thing they have to know to interact.
That's one of the primary communication
Yeah,
devices.
but, cause, I mean, I know with the, like, I also have an 87-year-old mother-in-law, and she needs, with a technology phobia, I would almost say, and it's like, new information does not stick, and so it's gotta be as simple as possible, and, that looks pretty straightforward,
Yeah,
I
and
think.
it's
Most
very
people could
straightforward.
probably
Yeah.
manage
Yeah,
that.
grand care.
Well, grand
grand
care
care
is,
started with
Yeah.
that.
they started in this community, right, with all folks supporting those, so
Mhm.
it's really simple, big buttons or whatever you
Yeah,
call it.
yeah,
Big
I
button,
think,
big
the
labels.
less is more kind of thing,
Yeah.
as long as you figure out what category your need falls into
Yeah.
Yep.
for the choices then, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can customize those buttons as well.
Oh, yeah.
So on the screens that we have, there's a call staff button. So they push that button and then it just alerts us that they need some support.
Does that default to a voice call or a video call?
Video call.
Video.
Now,
It's basically like FaceTime.
Uh-huh.
So if they can't see us, we can't see them.
Mhm.
It's no different than a phone or a tablet,
Mhm.
FaceTiming with the tablets. So,
I
but-
remember when my mom had the beginnings of dementia, she forgot how to use a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A button was, it was just,
But,
she had no idea what a button was.
and there is the option, depending upon, again, the prescription, that Javen could force a call. He can say, I'm gonna call you, and then force it to answer, so at least he can get into that video and say, hey, what's going on?
But she could stay in front of that TV for half an hour and never.
So Alan, let me respond. So, over time, every one of the people that we support has at least one annual meeting to assess how they're doing, determine, what their goals are, whether there's an increased need for services, a decreased need for services, how we'll respond to that. We are not anticipating that smart living will be, this type of a setting will be for every person we serve. We're expecting maybe a third, or, some number like that. So we'll have about a third of the people that we support. And how many people do we support in residential services right now? 150?
Yeah.
So about a third of 150, I wish, so 50.
There, good man.
So about 50 will be in more of our sort of full smart living homes. And then there'll be about a third where we'll be able to bring some of those devices in, but they're gonna still need a fair amount of in-person time. Maybe not 24 hours a day, but they'll still need a fair amount of that time, more so than the few hours a week that these, the highest end folks will be. And then we'll have about a third that will always need 24-hour care. The level of capability, just the impairments that they experience will still require 24-hour in-care services. And even with that though, there will be a place for technology. There will be a place for a wearable device that can detect the onset of a seizure. There will be the lighting that comes on, from a remote standpoint that might help prevent falls. There will be a machine that they can run themselves to feed themselves because they can have some control over how quickly they eat, the amount what they want to bite of, and they don't have to try to talk or do something, right? So about a third and a third and a third. So, if we see or notice someone who's not really able to use the technology again, it's not as though that's the only option that they'll have. It really is for us to take the folks that aren't needed over here, except for what if, and move them over here for that, to be able to truly provide that care. Yeah.
Just another tool.
It is a means to an end.
Yep.
It's not the end itself, right? It's a means to being able to serve people as best we can.
And that's where it'll change every quarter. Like right now, we're 50% remote. We're gonna add on a few homes. It could easily drop down to 25. We add on 3 more homes. We could be down to 10%. It's very person centered. So I think to that point of just like you said, it's just, it depends on the person, depends on their services. And at some point, hopefully we're all at 25% remote. But it takes time, and that's where that overlapping, Mark, I don't know if you want to talk about overlapping services of just, we don't completely pull out.
Right.
I don't know if you want to touch base on that.
I think I said when we start, we have parallel services, and then we still have they'll still need some in-person care, right? They'll still need help, somebody driving to the grocery store, medical appointments, other kinds of things, food prep, maybe whatever it might be, right? So it's never that someone is going to be in their apartment entirely supported remotely. There'll always be some in-person support. Yep. Yeah, so thank you very much for your time and attending today. I appreciate it very much. I just want to shout out to my team. None of this would be happening if it wasn't for the leadership with Jen, Mario, Sammy, and Javen. So they're the key to this. Thank you, everybody.